Hey everybody, welcome back to the Transparent Talk podcast. I'm your host, Zach Pinto. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to a specific audience, and hopefully this relates to you. It definitely would for me. And what it is the fear of making the wrong move. In a bunch of the calls that I've been getting for coaching, if you guys don't already know, I do a lot more business one-on-one coaching, but also I've been introducing life coaching. So I've been talking to a lot of individuals in some sticky situations. One, I talked to a mother of 8 children. In another, I'm talking to a guy who's done really well in sales and now he's looking to change his job up. He doesn't know exactly what or where he wants to go. So I've been kind of talking across the board with a lot of people over the last couple of months, and I wanted to share one of the common things that keeps coming up, which is the fear behind making any kind of move. Now, if you're asking yourself at this stage in your life, what if I'm choosing the wrong path and you're trying to make a decision? What if I'm investing time into something that doesn't work? What if 5 years from now I realize I should have done something different? If you've thought this, if you're thinking it right now, and you're trying to make a decision, you are not alone. A lot of people that I talk to, I would probably say 80% have that exact fear. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about why the fear of choosing the wrong path shows up, why people misunderstand that fear, what actually creates clarity in life, and we're going to get started with point one, which is the pressure to get it right. So, in these calls, I'm getting a lot of feedback that people feel immense pressure to just nail it. Like, for instance, even this podcast, starting this recording, I have the pressure to just nail this episode. And with that pressure, it just makes it all the harder to hit the record button. Just like you, if you want to get out of your job, it just makes it harder and harder if you're thinking that that job has to be at a certain caliber level for you to actually go and seek the right methods that you can find that job. So you end up in a position where you're allowing yourself to get into this fearful state, and it's locking your decisions so that you feel like you can't actually make any movement towards your future, at least not in the right way. So if you're in one of these positions, you may have looping thoughts in your head like, if I choose this career, it's going to be for the rest of my life. If I start this business, it has to work. I have to make it work. If I go down this path, there's going to be no turning back. Realistically, most paths are stepping stones. So in reality, most paths in our life are stepping stones, not permanent choices. I'll give you an example. If you go to the gym and you start consistently working out for 6 months and eating well, and then all of a sudden you drop off and you're not going every day like you were before, it is life. The reality is that in life, everything is a stepping stone. Some chapters in life, you are that dog and you are going after your goals and you're getting up every day at 5 a.m. and you're working towards what it is, and you have a very clear vision of what that is. You can see it in your head when you close your eyes. And there are also periods in life where you don't feel that clear. So what ends up happening is we really get fixated on having permanence in our life, having things that are always going on. I know a lot of people in the space of the business entrepreneur world create very strict habit trackers, very strict time blocking. And these are terms that we hear, journaling, and it's strict. And what ends up happening is when things get strict, we put ourselves in a cage of our own creation. And I know that most people listening to this have probably been in this situation, because I've been in this situation a number of times, and most of the people I talk to do the same thing. So when you get stuck in a position where you see yourself building your own cage, and what that means is, I have to do this. It's this way or no other way. Or you get fixated on the results of you showing up every day. And I'm a man of discipline, but we can't judge ourselves based off of one day or 1 week's mistakes. Another way to put it is, it isn't about how consistent you are. It is about how fast you get back to reality once you've made a mistake. So for instance, if I make a mistake speaking in this podcast, I'm going to cut it and I'm going to say something better, because I want to convey the best points possible for you, the listener, to be able to understand what my thinking and reasoning is. In life, it's like that. So if you want to start to become a new version of yourself, what I recommend is you take a look at your idols. If you don't have any idols, or if you're kind of confused on what that means, there are different people in your life that you're going to look up to for different reasons. You might look up to your mother or your father. You might look up to a celebrity. You might look up to someone you like just watching on YouTube. There are characteristics and things that you look up to them for. Could even be a fictional character as well. Understanding what those traits are and understanding what that life is going to help you understand what kind of person you want to become, right? Because you're gravitating there naturally. You're watching these things. So if you're in the position where you don't know what your idols are and you don't have that direction, start to isolate and write down what are the things that are showing up in these people that you like to watch. It could even be the types of movies you like to watch. What are the themes? If you can understand and isolate, just jot that down, a big list of things, and then you might find some commonalities, right? So I would put that in an AI bot. I would basically ask, what are the commonalities? And if I were just to tell you that this person likes watching these things, what could you tell me about this individual? And you're probably gonna get some feedback that you weren't ready for, which is gonna be cool. And hopefully it's positive, and hopefully it helps you adjust. The point number 2 is clarity comes from movement. We all know that when we start to get going on something, it's easier and easier and easier and easier, right? So for instance, if you want to start a habit of doing push-ups every day and you start and all of a sudden you're on day 5, 6, it's a lot easier than it was on day 2 and 3, right? So the longer you do it, so what that means is the longer that you stay consistent at something, the more momentum builds, the easier it is for you to keep that habit consistent. Now, the reason why this gets tricky is because people then go back to point 1 and say, well, consistency is messing my brain up, so now consistency is what brings clarity, so I'm confused. The key difference is where shame comes into the mix. If you have every day on your to-do list, you have to do 5 push-ups. If you didn't do the 5 push-ups, you move it to tomorrow, now you got to do 10. It shifts over. Or you delete it and you say, tomorrow I'm definitely going to do my 5. And the reason I'm going to do it is because I'm going to put it before brushing my teeth. I'm going to lay out a mat right there by the sink so I can rock 5 push-ups and I can kick ass for that day. Rewards don't come often enough as well. So if you're having troubles with movement, meaning actionable steps towards your goals, a lot of people have this issue where they make this giant big bullet point list. And that usually consists of a lot of stuff that you need to get done or figure out in order to achieve that goal of going on a Japan trip for a month, or that dream of getting a 6-pack, or the dream of building your business. It is a huge task list. I am one that understands that. I deal with not only my business's task list, my personal life, my relationship, my animals, which if you guys don't know, I have 2 cats and a dog at the moment, and potentially getting a second dog, knock on wood. Don't tell anyone I said that. But when it comes to building that movement and understanding what you need to do, it is difficult to write down this big bullet point list, because what ends up happening is when you start ticking off the boxes, I find 2 things happen. Either A, you don't feel good about taking off the box. So you tick it off. Let's say you did end up for a week being consistent and go to the gym. You don't really feel any different. You maybe feel a little bit good about yourself, but very quickly goes to this dissatisfaction of, yeah, I went every day, but I still don't see change. That's the very first one that I commonly see. The second one is that people lose steam as they go on. So for instance, you're consistent for a week or 2 and you lose steam, and then you can't finish that list. So let's say you have this really big goal of going to Japan for a month, and there's a ton of stuff you got to figure out, like where you're going to stay, how the money's going to work, where you're going to, all the stuff that comes with a big trip like that. Now, what ends up happening to individuals is they say, okay, cool, I'm going to start with this 100 task list and I'm going to start ticking the boxes. And that's not actually the right way to go about it, at least in my opinion, because what ends up happening is you get 2, 3, you get 4, 5 tasks done, you start checking the boxes, and then all of a sudden you lose the steam, and then you're sitting there on, let's say, Saturday, and you said, I was going to maybe spend an hour doing this, and you don't know what's the most important task to do. So what you end up doing is you end up scrapping the list, or it gives you so much anxiety that you just want to scroll on your phone because you just don't want to see the fucking thing. So that is the two core reasons that I see when people have issues with movement. So how do we combat that? What's an easy way, and what do I tell clients to do that works? So instead of thinking about it from a place of I need to create a giant task list, let's think about it like we need to have projects created under this outcome. So for instance, you want to go to Japan and you want to do a month trip, and there's a lot to plan in a month's trip. So what then you would do is you'd have your outcome being a successful month's trip. There's a due date. What's the metrics? All the Airbnbs are booked, travel plans all figured out. You have a whole list of what that means to be accomplished. Cool. That's our outcome, right? Now under that, we have projects. Now what needs to be taken care of? Airbnb situation, right? Travel situation to Airbnbs would be under that as a task, right? So what ends up happening is you not only have, and for those of you who need a visual, you can let me know and I can always send you something that's a little bit more visual, or walk you through my system so you can see it live. My website's transparenttransformations.com. You should be able to find it. Again, transparenttransformations.com if you need something more visual. I know that I do sometimes, so that's free. Don't worry, you can just reach out to me. But essentially, what ends up happening is you have your big outcome, whatever it is. It could be even starting a business. And what then happens is there's things that you need to get done that are projects. So instead of thinking of it as like a 100-point list, think about it as each project has 8 tasks. And what you would do is you would isolate which of these 8 projects that you have. Like let's say it took, in order to go to Japan, we need to get 8 major things done. Major things that consist of different lists inside them. Cool. Now, which one's the most important to get done? Probably the Airbnbs and like the travel, what you're actually going to do, right? The flights and the travel and where you're going to stay. Cool. So that would be our P1 and our P2 project. Now in those are going to be the tasks like, hey, we got to take a look at different Airbnbs, find prices, and all the information for that would go in those tasks, and we would only work 2 tasks at a time. So instead of having this 100-point list, we would have 2 tasks to do, the most important 2 tasks, P1 and P2, coming from those projects to affect the outcome. Once we get that done, we then move on to the next. So I don't know if that gives anybody a little bit more clear of a picture. I just find that that's one piece of it. And that's more the system side, which I'm very into, as you can tell. The other side is the motivation. So typically when people create that outcome at the very beginning, so I want to go to Japan for a month, I want a 6-pack, I want to start a business, your big outcome, right? You want to affect 1,000 people, right? So whatever it is, you need to have reasons why you want to do that are more powerful than just saying you want to go to Japan because you like anime or you like the culture or you like the food. It needs to be deeper than that. It needs to be rooted to your story as a person. It needs to have some guts to it. For instance, going to Japan, you want to be able to, on your deathbed, say that you went and you traveled the world to places that inspired you and you've always wanted to be, right? So there's deeper connection there. There's fuel that's in that's going to allow you to keep going when things get really uncomfortable. Right? So I'll share one of my RPMs with you now. So one of my big fuels and one of my big outcomes is I want to affect 1,000 people in the next 3 years, help them establish a stronger belief in their life and take an actionable next step forward. So I want to actually physically help people, whether that's through intro calls and direction resets and actually helping people one-on-one, or selling courses to people that actually help them as well. So those are the only 2 metrics that I'm going to be tracking from this point. I don't have any courses right now. That's still in the works. So I have a lot of marketing courses, but I don't sell those. I just, that's to do with marketing clients, and that's not what I'm talking about. That's my major outcome for my coaching business. So for you, finding something that attaches to the person you want to become, because for me, it's about impact, right? So when you're thinking about goals, you should be thinking about impact, not necessarily a money, financial result, or something that's superficial like materialism. Because the truth of the matter is, and I think we all understand this, and if you don't, this is going to rock your world a little bit because it did for me, is when you have the house, it is going to feel the same as it does right now. When you have the car, when you have the job that you've always wanted. It is going to feel, after you get stabilized and your emotions stabilize back to normal, you are going to feel the same. And that's not to make people feel upset or sad. The key is why don't you feel happy now? and how can we establish happiness in the moment so that you, when you get there, are already happy. And that's also part of the law of attraction, right? So a lot of people get this wrong. This is really cool. So this leads us to a really quick point on the law of attraction, which if you guys want to know more about it, there's so much documentation on it. But essentially what it means is people, if you can visualize what you want like you already have it, you then are going to attract it into your life. But there's a catch that not really many people talk about. You have to be happy in the present moment in order to achieve that. No matter if you achieve that goal or not, you have to be happy now. Because if you don't, what ends up happening is the feeling of lack is the driver behind your goal. Let me explain. So let's say my outcome or my big goal is to own a house and have a big family. Cool. What I say is, I can see that, and I can wake up and my kids jump on the bed and they're daddy, and they're whatever, they got the puppies are jumping on the bed. Everyone's on the bed. There's fur everywhere. We're having an awesome morning. The wife's making pancakes, bringing it into the bedroom. Everyone's eating pancakes together and watching TV. Cool. That's awesome. I can see it. I can taste it. I can taste the pancakes, all that beautiful stuff that you read about in all these books. And for those of you who don't know much about this, you can feel free to watch a video. I highly recommend it. Law of attraction is really interesting, and it does work. Some people achieve a lot of great things, and you're like, are you just lucky or what? So I'll leave that there. But the one big catch that people don't understand is feeling happy in the present moment allows you to, when you're putting out into the universe, when you're asking for what you want and you're imagining it like you already have it, that you're already in a place of loving and being happy. That comes from a place of, okay, cool, I'm not in a position of lacking this experience, and this experience is going to bring me more happiness. I'm already happy now, and this experience coming into my life is going to not change my state. And you can kind of see it with rich people. Like, they don't really care. Like, the money doesn't make them any happier, right? But they just continuously attract money through all these different means, for all these different income streams, for all these different businesses, because they can just attract that because it doesn't affect them. But the thing is, when you have a poor person mindset, what ends up happening is you put so much of your emotions behind having more money, or the government's fucked up. And then what ends up happening is, because you're in that state of mind, you can't actually have anything that you want that's going to help you achieve more, that's going to help you become more, it's going to help you have more impact, it's going to help you achieve your goals. So just a round table on point 2, clarity comes from movement. So if you're trying to get clear on any kind of decision towards who you're supposed to become, it's going to come from steady progressive movements forward. Action is the next step. And many people get caught in that one. So the last point I want to talk about and bring it home for people is that the real risk is not picking the wrong job or picking the wrong habit or goal to go after for the next 6 months. It is standing still, not building momentum, not taking action. That is the biggest fear, and that's what we need to be watching out for. So what ends up happening is, when we get system overwhelmed, because we have these giant task lists, because we don't know exactly who we want to become, because sometimes we get anxious when we try to think about it too long, because there's just so many things you want to do in life, and it's just not streamlined to a place where you can think about it and actionably take a step. We never learned that, right? You've never been in a state of mind where you're just happy in the present moment, because you're always wanting better, you're always wanting more, because you think more is going to make you happy. So the real risk is standing still and distractions pinning you down. So what we need to do is understand what the clear path forward is and have a way that we can actionably measure that without putting more pressure on ourselves. That's what I do for my job now, which is kind of cool. And I've been putting it into practice in my life, and my life's gotten a lot better. There are days for everybody that suck. There are times when we get in emotional states that kind of rock our world, but how fast can we get back to feeling good about our life in the present moment? We have lots of things to be grateful for, right, guys? Lots of things. You can take the person with the most hardships and you can still find things that are grateful for them. So in the conclusion of this, I can promise you that you are not going to know with full certainty what path you should choose. What is the perfect path for you? Not many people do. A lot of people will start in one spot and end up across the map. That's not to make you feel bad. That's not a scary thing. We are creatures of adaptation. We are creatures of progress, and we are creatures that can create many things. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be moving, we need to be learning, we need to be growing. The process that shapes your life and builds it up. So if that inspires you, great. If there's any questions or there's anything you need to see visually, you can always email me. You can go to the website, you can fill out a form, like I said. It is not going to cost you anything. You can come and check it out. And hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next episode.